Did you know that Gen Z is the number one generation buying Bibles at the moment? Well, so there's been a spike in Bible sales. I believe this was particularly in the United States, if I can't remember. I was reading this statistic, and the generation I found interesting that they bothered whoever did it just bothered to actually highlight which generations were the ones buying it. But it came up that Gen Z, my generation, were the number one ones buying Bibles. And I burst into tears, obviously, because, you know, the way I am on here with you guys and the attitude I've developed has all been a result of me being both in my generation and hearing everything all the other generations have to say about my generation. And, like, you know, because I've always done in my life, when people critique me or something I'm a part of, I also do my own self-critique, and then I also critique everything else, because, like, it's like, if we're doing critique now, let's all critique. And that's when I realized that, looking at my generation, that's how I came to the conclusion that, you know, I feel like my generation has so much promise. It's that we just don't have guidance, we don't have leadership, we don't have good role models. You know what I'm saying? Because the generations that came before are not, in the recent generations, are not even winners at this point. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I realized in my generation, we grew up with technology. We grew up with being able to look up information for ourselves. So it's not just that the information that we get is information that we're told. And ironically speaking, it's the generation above us that's the one who pays for these things, who pays for our phones or paid for our access to the internet. And we've been able to do our own research for ourselves. And I feel like there's been so much conversations around how bad that has been, but no one talks about how good that has been. Because for me, I've seen us becoming critical thinkers. I've seen critical thinking finally coming back into the building for the first time. When I think about this concept that you guys used to do lobotomies, I've been thinking about this whole prefrontal lobe thing. And also the fact that, it was very common, a couple decades ago, a couple more decades, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago, it was very common, for people to, like, have, you know, much older men literally marrying children, stuff like that. A lot of people's grandparents have got like a 20-year age gap, and they got married when, like, she was 14 and he was like 35 or something. Right. And this is what I'm saying. You guys in the older generation, you guys in these other generations, I get why you all turned out the way you did, But for us, we have access to information. We've been on the internet. We've had to build up tougher skins because we've been plastered by even you guys on the internet, with everybody commenting on everything we're doing, whether it's the family members, and whether it's the world, the communities, whatever. We have had to just be so overly exposed. And what I feel like it's done, in a lot of ways, it has damaged us, like, in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways it's built us up, like, to be strong and to be a lot stronger, like, especially mentally, because we've had to deal with things as kids. You guys will never understand. Like, that's why I feel like a lot of adults will never understand. You will never know what it's like to be 13 or 12 or 10, you know what I mean, on Facebook, whatever, like I was, or 11, like, and have strange men messaging you. And I'm here posting there with my little cleavage out because I was an early bloomer, thinking that I'm looking cute, not knowing what I'm doing, having grown men telling me that, oh yeah, you look old for your age and whatnot, and having all this access to me that I don't even understand, and I'm just a kid here roaming the internet. That's why I get upset about these things, you guys, as well. I just like to say, because I've experienced this all the times that, these men would be like online, like, oh, you're mature for your age, and da 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 da. The good thing was, because I'd given myself to the Lord at 7 years old, I was kind of like, it was so weird to have been so mature so early. But that's what's happened to us. We've all had to mature really early, and that's why for a lot of us, we're critical thinkers. So it doesn't surprise me that the number one generation buying Bibles, actual Bibles, actually buying them, is my generation, because we are not the generation where we did lobotomies if you didn't go along with whatever was you were supposed to go along with, or tranquilizing everybody with everything, or having cocaine and all these things legal, and everybody doing crack and cocaine at the lake and getting away with it, and driving and it wasn't even illegal. And like, because you guys really did a lot, like I can't even lie, y'all was not okay. Like back in the day when Coca-Cola was still wine and cocaine, like that's crazy. I'm like, no wonder y'all's brains is so damaged. No wonder y'all's brains ain't functioning, because you guys, the things that you people being up to, the more stories I hear, the more stories I hear, the more I'm like, do you know what? It all makes sense. It all makes sense. And it's so funny because, then you guys turn around in pride and somehow found a way. And this is where you messed up, I feel like. This is where the older generation messed up. You messed up by taking all of that, taking all your experiences, seeing how we turned out, seeing that. And I almost feel like it's actually jealousy, come to think of it. It's actually just jealousy, because we're free thinkers. We defend ourselves. We stick up for the fact that why is somebody allowed to have sex with a child? That's weird. That's disgusting. You guys just took those things because that's just what was happening, and you allowed all these things to happen. We're like, we think about mental health because we want to be healthy. We don't want to be excusing ourselves for beating our wives and domestic violence, and excuse ourselves for being ugly people, and excuse ourselves for whatever. We want to be free. We want to be happy. We want to enjoy life. So we're prepared to put the work in, because we've had to build up our skin, our thick skin anyway, because we've been so overly exposed and critiqued and unsupervised all at once. Right. And so it's like a sink or swim type of situation. And for a lot of us, we've figured out how to swim. You know what I'm saying? And so, it doesn't surprise me at all that it's my generation who's the number one generation buying Bibles at all, because my generation is the one thinking logically and starting to think logically and putting two and two together. Right? A lot of, the older generation, like, you repeat the same thing that clearly didn't work before, but then you do it again. We're like, we're not going to do that again. Because it's like, you people be like, oh, you should do this. This is how we did it. You should listen to us because whatever. And we're like, if following your advice, like, this is why I don't think the older generations realize, if following your advice means we're going to turn out like you, then we don't want to follow your advice. That's the whole point. That's what I've realized even as a teacher, why I relate a lot to my kids, in that aspect, when they are disobedient about certain things and they don't just follow the rules. Obviously, back in the day, you guys would just resort to violence, or resort to cutting parts of people's brains out, or tranquilizing them, or you were just all on drugs anyway. So, just like how the Diddies and that do it, keep everybody drugged, and then you can pretty much get away with anything. But then all these laws came into being, which, again, ironically, you guys being the generation of the lawmakers, and somehow it's backfired on us, that now, when we are now trying to be healthy and whole humans and actually love and look after people and all this stuff. Because it's so true. Somebody said the other day, I can't remember where I saw this, but this is why I love being chronically online, because sometimes I just see stuff and I just think, yeah, this is it. Someone was like, you old people brag about your long marriages and how, young people aren't getting married anymore. It's like, and that's where this is the post where everyone was talking about the age of their grandparents, and how the grandparents all had 20 different years age gap. And we're like, yeah, we all understand why. It's like, just because you stayed in it doesn't mean it was something worth staying in. And this is what I always used to think, even myself, especially like being African. I always used to look at these women in these marriages, and how, they would have these husbands, these ugly husbands. Yeah. Like, and I'm not saying, listen, there's so many beautiful African men. I'd just like to say that. So many beautiful. In fact, the other day I saw the most gorgeous, I think he was probably Ghanaian man in the supermarket. And I wanted to go up and say to him, like, you are so handsome. But then I realized, as a woman, when you do that, men usually interpret that as you trying to make a move. So I don't. Anyway, so, but I would be growing up. I remember I was seeing the aunties and this. You've got this literally fugly husband. Like, he's both fat and ugly, right? Who you're allowing to cheat on you. You're even defending the cheating, right? Could it be me? Listen, if you're gonna chill me, you better be the most delicious, delectable looking man, so I can be like, you know what, fair enough. So these are the things we're seeing, and you guys are all defending it. This is what you have to do. This is what you have to do. And all these things, you know, that you go to all these events, you know, as Africans, and they teach you about how to be a wife and what to do for your husband. And I'm like, you want me to do that for him? He's got an ugly personality. He's got a bad temper. You know what I mean? He's always with all these women. You know, you're talking about having, I don't even know how you people are even having sex, because that just seems like, I don't know how you people do it, like in that, you women, like that actually must feel like torture. Like, no wonder you guys hate yourself, like hate life, and no wonder you're so bitter, because that must be horrific, right? And you're like, you have to do this and you have to do this, and you're breaking your back for a man who barely even provides something. They don't even provide. A lot of cultures in Africa even these days, oh my gosh. So, you know, these are the things we saw, and it just backfired. Like, you guys went along with it in a way where, like, with a lot of stuff, in a way where I think youth just thought, oh, we're just going to keep doing this and this is just going to continue. And we just decided, well, to hell with it. We don't have to continue with this. We don't have to. We don't have to, actually. We don't have to just put up with anything as women or as men. And I love that for us. Don't get me wrong. I love that for us. I love that we fight back. I love that we are saying, you know what, the standards are in the bin. And that's why we're the ones buying the Bibles, because we're moving closer to the biblical standards than you are. You guys are operating like what the devil would prefer. That's the crazy part. You guys, with all the things you love to defend, you guys are operating more like the world. And the things that we are doing is operating more like more godly, you know, working through things, deliverance, healing, working through things, and actually, you know, the Galatians 5:22, you know, the fruits of the spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, self-control, you know, long suffering. We're working towards those things. Being able to listen, caring about what other person thinks, being like, you know what I'm saying? So I love my generation. You guys treat us like we're the airy fairies, but you guys look like the most boring slaves. And it's like, well, we're proud to have been together for 60 years. Or we're proud to have done this when I was your age. I did this, and I did that. And it's like, God forbid. It didn't work out how I don't think these things worked out how you guys thought they would, basically. I think you thought, because you just went along with it, for whatever reason, is unknown to me. I think maybe because, I don't know, you guys went along with it, that I think you guys just thought we would just go along with it. But then we were looking at you. And that's what I'm saying. Did you not look at what happened before you and think, I don't want to be a part of that, and to do different? That's the bit I don't get, really. But anyways, I just wanted to quickly pop on here to talk to mention this. I mentioned this in another video, but I'm just so proud. Like, I'm proud of us, and I have so much hope for my generation. I really do. And, you know, I really believe, like, my generation is like, if they had leaders, if they had mentors. Oh, I forgot to mention that. In my previous video, I was talking about this mom who said that she feels like I was more than a teacher, like, to her child. She was like, I feel like you were like his mentor, which is such a big statement from a parent to say to me. You know, but like, you know, if they had mentors, if they had, like, if we had this, we're so lost in my generation because we just don't have anything to look up to. And so no wonder the rest of the generation is doing like what I did. Just turn to the Bible, mate. Turn to the Lord, who makes sense, whose ways of doing things make sense to us. You know what I'm saying? With our critical thinking, because now we've had an opportunity to see how things operate. Now we've been left unsupervised on the internet. You know, now we know. Now we know. Now we know. Now we know better. We've seen you guys. We've lived through what you guys have turned out to be. You know, like I said, you know, whether it's in the West, whether it's in whatever. And I would remember sitting in all these things as a kid, like thinking, I'm never getting involved in this. I'm never putting up with that. I'm never putting up with that. I'm never putting up with that. Meanwhile, we're being told, oh, this is what you do. This is what you do. It's like, I don't have to do that, actually. And I just feel like, I don't know, maybe the Lord just impressed a crazy gene onto my generation. But as maybe that's where the Z is, the crazy. you know, because I love it. I love it. And that's why I even love my job, because talking to the kids and how much more how they think, like I love their brains more than I love talking to adults. Adults are like talking to children. Talking to children is like talking to adults these days. Talking to adults is like brain dead. Like your brains aren't functioning. Like you're not using brain power. Some of you, I think there's cobwebs, genuine cobwebs, and obviously the lobotomies. The kids, however, they're critical thinking. They've seen things around the world, so they test things out. They're asking interesting questions. And I'm like, okay, okay, now we're talking. So yeah, that's what I mentioned. That it's my generation, my us, the heathens, the devil generation, right? The evil generation. You know, it's so funny because even in One Piece, that's what the generation of Luffy's generation, they call them in the show. They're called the worst generation. That's their title, the worst generation. Can you imagine? Luffy's generation is called the worst generation. That's what makes me laugh about watching One Piece as well, and watching what they're doing, because it's just like he's going off to be the king of the pirates, and he's doing the damn thing. And along the way, all the other generation, other than the older generation people who are wise and who are winners, who then, instead of calling them the worst generation, actually help them. That's what was so interesting about watching One Piece. You have a lot of them just being like, oh, the worst generation, they're like this. But then all the actually successful, all the actual winners of the other generations go out of their way to take time to train that generation and actually nurture them. That's the funny thing. And so that's what happens in One Piece. That's why I think One Piece is such an interesting thing to watch. Anyways, guys, I'm going to leave that there. I don't want to make this a long one, because if life's a game, let's play to win. God bless you all. God loves you. I love you. And I'll see you in my next one.